many people know that there's Samke,
Okay.
who's a mental health advocate, who talks mental illness often. So I remember this one time somebody came, going out on a date,
Yeah.
and like, "Hi, tell me about your illness."
What do you mean?
Okay, can we not just eat
Coffee or tea?
Can we please order starters at least?
Oh my gosh. Hello, Wisdom and Wellness family. We are all cozied up. It's winter, my favorite season. As you're going to see, I'm going to be wearing coats even if there's a whole lot of sun. But today I'm excited to be sitting with an incredible woman. I've had the honor of meeting her once, actually. I don't know, actually didn't meet her, but I saw her speaking on stage and I was just taken by her story, and I knew that I wanted to share it with my family. So today we are sitting with Dr. Samke Ngobo. She is better known on social media as Vocal Mentality. She's a medical doctor, author of Reflections of a Convoluted Mind, keynote speaker, mental health advocate, and she lives by the quote that she's not suffering from mental illness, but thriving despite it.
Yep.
Hi, Doc.
Hi.
Do you prefer? You're not practicing medicine anymore, right?
No, I'm in corporate, but
Yeah.
working as a doctor within the corporate space.
Okay, so people still call you doctor.
They do, but I'm happy to be called Samke. They call me Dr. Samke, not Dr. Ngobo.
Dr. Samke. Sure. So I remember. So we actually didn't meet, did we?
We were in the same table at an event.
Same table at an event.
Yes.
I feel like I met you because when you were on stage, it felt like you were just talking to me in the room. Like I felt like, okay, this girl's just looking at me. She's here for me.
Wow.
And I think that's what makes you such a brilliant speaker, is that you see everybody in the room and everybody hears you. So I wanted you to actually share your entire journey. I mean, you live with bipolar, right? So how did it start? Tell me about your upbringing.
So my journey starts at the age of 15. Oh, it starts at birth.
Hopefully.
And I come from a very Christian background
Yeah.
and religious. My parents were strict. So you read the Bible every evening, that kind of a setup.
Yeah.
And everyone rotates. So that was the setup I grew up in.
Yeah.
Very shy.
Yeah.
And in just generally as a child. And
Even in your
withdrawn.
family at home.
Yes, I was. I mean, this.
But I mean, you're a speaker now, so.
Yes, I know. So as I grew, I realized that I love communicating and connecting with people.
Yeah.
And even though I was not raised that way, I realized that I found a home in it.
Okay.
And I become a different person. That's my Sasha Fierce space.
Got you. Switch it on.
Absolutely. And at the age of 14, life took a different turn. I was behaving abnormally and not moody. People would think that age 14, teenagers are like that.
Adolescents, yeah.
Yeah, but things kept building up in terms of severity, hearing people who aren't there, seeing people who aren't there.
Sure.
And that's when my parents started getting concerned that this is no longer normal at all.
So, sorry, it was just abrupt, like 14 out of nowhere, or do you think it might have been happening throughout your life? You just never took note of it?
It was a gradual progression, say maybe from the age of 13, it was building up where people aren't aware.
Yeah.
And I remember this one point in high school, thank God I've still got the same friends.
Oh, wow.
From high school.
Yeah.
And during that time, I would sit, one day I'm laughing and playing with, not playing it, by high school you're not playing.
Just like
Yes,
chatting
exactly.
it up.
So
yeah.
I'd be talking to them and socializing. The next day I'm sitting in the corner, I want nothing to do with them.
Sure.
So it was a yo-yo kind of a situation.
Sure.
And then it built up where I really was becoming sick. And then my parents took me to hospital. So this is 22 years ago where I had my first encounter with mental health care services, unlike it is now, where people talk about it and encourage it,
And there's something online, like you find a video where you relate to or something, yeah.
Absolutely. So it was a very lonely place in my life because I remember being exorcised in the hospital. People thought I was demon possessed. So I'm being made to shout the name of Jesus the whole time because I then realized in hindsight that they were trying to cast out something that they felt was in me.
Sure.
Other people were afraid of me because they thought I'm bewitched. So there were so many, assumptions about what was happening to me because there was very little understanding. Socially, when people would come to pray for me at home, you'd find that they're saying, please don't give us anything to drink, anything to eat. Then I realized that this is related to social stigma.
Sure.
They thought this is contagious,
Sure.
So it was a very lonely place for me. And I was described by some people that I'm the weakest link. So you can imagine growing up from a Christian background, and then people think that you've brought this evil spirit
Into
you
the
know?
home, yeah.
Yeah, so I felt quite. I wanted nothing to do with this God that would house a demon in a young girl. You know.
Sure. So you actually believed that you are living with a demon.
Yes, because that's what people
Treated you like, yeah.
as. And it was I felt very ostracized and lonely as a result. Fortunately, when I returned to school, grade 9 this is, things quietened down. I was not becoming sick and I was not even on treatment. I think I was not as stressed or pressured as things built up in university because things took a turn and a bad turn. So I had done very well in matric and I entered university and I decided to be a doctor, largely because I wanted to understand myself.
What's
I
happening?
thought that if I get into this profession, I'll get to understand my journey. And the interest was always into mental health care services.
Yeah.
So I went to university, did very well. I had a bursary first year, second year, third year.
So wait, hold on. Backstory. Back up. So 14, you have this breakdown and you're
Yes.
taken into hospital and you're feeling out. And then do you come back from hospital feeling better and life almost just kind of continues?
It did, but the bounce back from mental illness is not immediate.
Okay.
So I was in hospital roughly 3 weeks at the
Yeah.
time. Then I had to recuperate for another 2 weeks.
Okay.
And it's sort of like a daze of sorts because you've lost some weeks of your life, so to speak, and everyone's been carrying on with their life. So it's like you're in a daze of sorts. Obviously, there was also the weight gain from this medication. So, it was a difficult time in that sense because people knew me to be a certain way and I
Yeah.
returned.
Sure.
And body
And I
image.
have to keep explaining, even though
Yes.
people aren't asking, but you can see the question in people's eyes. Yeah.
And issues related to body image are quite rife at that time of
14,
your life.
yeah.
Yes. So school continued normally,
Okay.
and then university took a turn. I think the pressures of it,
Yeah,
are
medical
what
school,
yes,
yeah.
the pressures there took over, and then I was relapsing twice a year, once a year throughout medical school from the time it was fourth. My first episode then was in third year, and I was getting sick all the time, admitted to hospital.
Sure.
So it was very difficult and very lonely because people are continuing with the university life. I'm disappearing half the
can't.
time.
Yeah.
Yes, so that was life-changing in a major way. And that's when I gained, was it 20 or 30 kilograms in a space of 4 months?
Sure.
So literally who I was and who I became was completely
Which is
different.
And just like that.
Yes.
And the reason why I was so drawn to your story is that I have a sister, a cousin that I grew up with, who now died by suicide about 3 years ago. And as you tell your story, I'm seeing so much of her, but there was just no language for that. Because like you said, but I mean, I look at her life and she was always anxious, but we didn't know it's anxiety. Like if there's ants around, like she would fret and she would panic and everyone would just be like, "Umtano tefa." You know those labels like, "We are tefa." You sometimes you're good, sometimes you're angry, sometimes you're not. And then when teenagehood started, that's when the weight gain started with her as well. And she managed high school, and then by varsity, I guess that's when the pressures happened. And I guess the help, there's a point where the help, we just don't know enough as a family. And unfortunately, she lost her life. But that's when I got invested in mental health. And when I heard your story, I was like, geez, how many other teenagers go through this until life gets to a point where it's just not worth it anymore?
No, absolutely. There's a lot of shame related to suicidality.
Yes.
And it's a topic that one doesn't want to visit.
Yes.
Because there's such a stigma to it. You're deemed as selfish.
Yeah.
There's so many
And
labels
also,
for
you
it.
just don't know which words. Am I using the right words? Am I not? I personally, as someone on the other side, I don't want to be offensive in my use of language, but I understand how important the conversation is.
Absolutely. It was very lonely. I didn't understand my feelings.
Yeah.
This term called depression now.
Yeah.
At that time, I had no language for it. All I knew is that I wanted the curtains, drawn close. I wanted to be in a dark room. It was very lonely. And I did struggle with those thoughts at the time. No attempts, but definitely those thoughts did plague me because I just wanted to cease to exist.
Yeah.
When you find that existing is more painful than living. That's
Sure.
how it felt.
Sure.
And not that I'm saying that I understand why people do that,
Yeah.
but I know the difficulty when living literally
just so
becomes
hard.
more difficult than, being alive, basically.
Yeah. So when did you actually get a diagnosis?
So when I was 14, people just said I have a mood disorder, and I think I'm grateful for that because I would have lived with the label that I have a condition that has such a stigma and would not understand. I finally was told that I have bipolar disorder when I was in university, but
Sure.
because I kept asking, what is wrong with me?
Yeah.
You know,
Like, it's not like you wake up and you want to just be angry at everyone.
Absolutely. The fluctuations were frustrating to other people. So I was
Yeah.
finally told that I have bipolar disorder. And it's not like there was internet to say, let me Google,
Google
what this is.
yeah.
You know?
You have to figure it
yes,
out. Yeah.
Yeah. So I walked around, you know, telling close friends that I have this diagnosis, but I didn't understand
What it means.
I only understood and accepted this condition quite recently, actually. This is after 16 years of having this diagnosis, actually,
Ma'am.
in 2017.
Ma'am.
So I carried knowing that I have this condition, but finally grasping it is when I found the right fit of a psychiatrist and a psychologist, because I said, what is it about me that makes me different to other people? Because you know, I thought I'm the one that can wing it.
Yeah.
I'm the person with bipolar that can wing it.
Okay.
That doesn't need medication.
Because you're a doctor,
Yes.
and you're smart.
And also
and you've been doing it.
Yes, and
Yeah.
also because of how a person with bipolar is portrayed, a person with mental illness is portrayed. And I
yeah.
thought, I don't look like that. I'm not that.
Let me mask it.
Yes, and then my doctor told me in a simple term, because being a doctor, as I told you, that I was trying to find myself, but I didn't find myself in that.
Yeah.
And she's the one that explained that I have a different way of functioning from other people when when I'm in a state of being manic. And she told me that when I'm depressed, it goes south. And she told me something that has stayed with me. She says, Samke, when you are well, you thrive. But when things go south,
They go
They
south.
go very south. And it's
Yeah.
very true. I'm thriving, I'm well when I'm doing well. But when things are difficult, I
They're really
really they take a turn for the worse.
I want to go in a little deeper on mental health as a full picture. And my understanding is this, my limited understanding based on my experience and just my outside view and my own struggles is I view people who struggle deeply with mental health issues as people who actually see the world for what it is. And I think that's what makes it hard to cope. So, for example, I look at a Kanye West, and I think the reason why he finds it so hard to cope, yet so genius, is because he sees things that other people don't see. So basically, he's too woke. You know too much, more than you're supposed to know. And I think as human beings, I don't know if our brains can handle that. So I want to get from your perspective, from an experience perspective, and just from a medical perspective, is there a link to that? And I think I'm asking because maybe it might break the stigma, because I know now there's a whole conversation about kids with autism are actually geniuses. So instead of us just label sick, maybe we can get a better understanding of what makes this person seem a little different.
So particularly with bipolar disorder and mental illness as well, there's also a chemical imbalance that causes you to, you know, actually prefer being in a manic state because, you know, like you're saying, that creativity. And I've always said to people, man, that is, you know, I've never been high in my life, but that state of being is epic.
Sure.
Because you're doing things, there's
You're
times when I
genius.
can't sleep for 3 days and I'm doing things and
Like
I'm achieving them.
you're in your genius state.
Yes, I'm doing
Sure.
things. I am able to execute tasks. But the problem is the crash when it does catch up with you. If you're not sleeping for 3 days, it's going to catch up with you in some level. And then you get into a depression, you're being admitted to hospital because your behavior becomes increasingly abnormal. So when you're having, you know, your behavior can become so abnormal that, you know, life complicates significantly. And, you know, it's not that I condone Kanye West's behavior
Yes,
as you mentioned his name, but there's a part of me that relates because the abnormality for him is that he is so well known. So
That's
his
it.
things play out so publicly.
Yeah.
And I so relate for the
That's
fact
my
that
pain for him.
I had a public relapse 3 years ago, which was life-changing because when I'd have an episode, it was always in the protection of friends and family. Then very few people knew what was going on with me.
Before we move on from that, what does an episode look like for you? Has it always looked the same, or has it gradually changed with time?
It has gradually changed with time, and it's changed because my insight improved. So back in the day, I just would find myself in hospital and not know what happened to me because I was not seeing what was happening to me progressively.
So it's almost an out-of-body experience.
It is for me.
Yeah.
And as time has gone on, I have better insight and also a greater acceptance from the people around me who give me feedbacks about the red flags. I'd want to fight them. They're saying, Sam, you're forgetful. Sam, you're quite irritable. For me, the irritability becomes plus.
Yeah.
So for me, that's what happened. I have better insight to my condition and I allow the feedback of those who are around me. And I think that's why it's been a progression. It's because I have better insight and judgment and I embrace that from the people around me. Outside of back in the day, I would literally find myself there and not know how I ended up there. Absolutely.
I guess it helps that you've kept the same community of people who love, accept, and understand you. How has your romantic life been affected, if it has, or how has it been exciting?
You know, it's interesting you ask me that because I'm somebody, many people know that there's Samke, who's a mental health advocate, who talks mental illness often. So I remember this one time somebody came, going out on a date and like, hi, tell me about your illness.
What do you mean?
Okay, can we not just eat
coffee or tea?
Can you please order starters at least?
Oh my gosh.
And
I'm
how
sure
do
you were just like,
no, it was a bit overwhelming. And I thought, can we talk anything outside of that?
Yeah, do you like roses or tulips?
Yes, because I'm like, I'm not the illness though. Yes, I
you're
speak
a
about
person.
this. Yeah, even if you speak about diabetes, you're not going to be like, tell me what's your sugar? What's your sugar? So, and they're like, so tell me, and I think they were genuine in asking that question. But I thought the
trying to
timing,
impress you.
the timing was off as well. Then the other one, when they met me, the conversation was just based on the bipolar.
Now you're at work,
and it's saying that I've watched every interview you've done, and I thought maybe watch them, don't tell me.
Use it for yourself.
And the one also had the disorder, so now the conversation was about their disorder. I've had situations which were really epic fails, but lessons learned that when that starts going in that direction, you need to see how it's going to play out in the future, because when Samke is upset, will you blame it on the illness or she's genuinely upset?
Because then now there's blame shifting, I assume.
Absolutely, because if you're coming with that, just sitting down and I must define bipolar.
It means
no.
like
yes, absolutely. The gaslighting vibes are going to come. So it's been an interesting journey. Then there's people who are open-minded. And also, I think what ties up with that is saying, when do I share that information?
Yes.
At which point is it appropriate to share that?
Yeah, especially if someone doesn't know of your online profile.
Yes, absolutely. When is it time to share it? And I always say, building a relationship and knowing who you are and reading the person as well.
Reading the person.
Any other diagnosis as well. You're not entitled to just share a diagnosis.
Morning, I am
this. You need to be able to feel safe and comfortable to discuss things of that nature.
Yeah. So I assume now you've got a good romantic life.
Hey, right now, is there romantic life? Is sleep one with dot.
No, but I'm so glad we touched on this because I think it's just so important that even with this conversation where I obviously had certain points I wanted to touch on, but you've taught me something today that it's a full life. Just like everything else, if I have my toe cut off, life doesn't stop. Like I don't stop going to my kids' game because this has happened, or my life is not, that's not the conversation I'm constantly having. But there's actually a full life going on, and people should really open up to that. It's not the end of your life.
No, absolutely. I always emphasize that it's a fractional aspect of my life.
Yeah.
It may impact it greatly at certain points. At times it's there and I need to look after it. But Samke, yes, I speak mental health, yes, but that's not who I am. That's not who you are. No, there's so much more to me than the illness. And that's why I say I have the illness. I'm not suffering, but I'm thriving despite it.
Yeah.